Five.
No mark.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center on the Sig Sauer Platinum microphone.
Mark, we know they want to take our guns, and now we're going to make them eat it.
Proudly presented to you by X Insurance. X Insurance. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast begins right now. How the heck are you? Welcome inside the Car Firearms Group studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today on these Sundays in front of this very powerful Sig Sauer Platinum microphone. It's all being brought to you by the great X Insurance here at the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center. Greg in Dallas, Texas, how you doing, brother?
Not too bad, man.
We made it. It's
here we are.
Week. It was a great weekend. You sent some tornadic weather our way yesterday. Fortunately, it stayed a little south of me, so we dodged another bullet. Hey, I'm wearing a really cool hat tonight. We got to give a shout out to them because they have been fighting like cats and dogs. Oregon Firearms Federation.
All right.
OFF with the AR-15 in front of the OFF logo. So big shout out to you cats fighting the fight in Oregon. And good heavens, you have a fight in your hands. Oh, Colorado, Oregon, Washington State. If you're anywhere behind that blue wall, well, you got a fight on your hands. Greg, if you would be kind enough to tell people where to watch us, we're on all kinds of social media platforms, and then we will get started.
Yeah, sure. If you want to watch the show, just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters over on YouTube and Rumble. On X, we're at AAR Mark. If you want to join, we're also on armedamericanradio.org or .com. On the right-hand side of that website, you'll see the menu icons. Just give that a click, and when that window opens up, you can select that Watch Live option. If you're driving, hit that Listen Live link, and if you missed any previous episode of this program, just head on over to the podcast link. If you'd like to join our live chat, all you have to do is head on over to your app store, grab the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, I was just looking here while you were talking. Yeah, that's right. Armed American Radio page is up now, right? We should have it up for the Daily Show beginning this week from that point on. But my pen, tomorrow's my birthday, and my mom got me this cool 308 caliber pen.
All right.
Right, with a bolt action on it,
Yeah, okay.
Lever action do the pen thing there, and while you were talking, I accidentally hit it, and I was trying to write something down, and we had to bring the bolt action back. So now we got our pen here. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be one of those days. Greg, I got to be honest with you, man. There's been so much going on over the past really week. When I started doing some show prep today, I thought, where do we want to start? Right? Trump's 100 days, assault weapons bans, Democrats going nuts, and I thought, I'm going to start with DOJ, and I'm going to go. Our good friend Dave Workman over at Citizens Committee and Second Amendment Foundation has a great article up over on AmmoLand. Trump DOJ stuns nation, sides with gun owners in Supreme Court 2A showdown. What? Did we ever hear a headline like that over the last 4 years?
Oh, no way.
DOJ would have never sided with us on anything. So I think the best place to start is with a CCR-KBA, Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, of which I am a longstanding and very proud member of the board of directors. Cheers precedent-setting government amicus brief in Hawaii 2A case. Hawaii all of a sudden back at it again, Greg.
Yeah, I read about this.
And this is a big deal for a number of different reasons. So let me just start with part of the brief, then we'll go to we'll get some commentary from what Dave Workman had to say about. Let's do the lineup first because this reminds me of Alan Gottlieb. Alan Gottlieb is on an airplane right now as we speak, so he can't make it today. And I know everybody misses him. You believe the email I get when Alan's not on. When's Mr. Gottlieb coming back and giving us updates? They all love Alan Gottlieb. And we do too, ladies and gentlemen. He's been traveling over the last few weeks when we've been on air, so it's been a little tough to have him on the program. And the same with AWR Hawkins, who is also doing some traveling right now. But we'll have both of those gentlemen back next week, I feel certain. So in what may be, ladies and gentlemen, the first time in history, listen to the words I'm telling you. In what may be the first time in history, the United States has filed an amicus brief with the U.S. Supreme Court in full support of petitioners in a case challenging the constitutionality of a state gun control law under the Second Amendment. And the CCR-KBA offers kudos to the Trump administration for making it happen. This is the Wolford v. Lopez case, and I don't think we've spent a lot of time on this case, Greg. We have mentioned it. Mr. Gottlieb has mentioned it, but we'll get into some details about it now because it really matters. And what this does is it pits the state of Hawaii right smack up against the United States Second Amendment to our Constitution. It is a full frontal attack and a face-off right now. And the CCR-KBA, according to the press release from Mr. Gottlieb, interest in this case, CCR-KBA's interest in this case is unique, as Hawaii is one of a dozen states suggested by the committee. If you recall, last week I read you a press release from the committee that singled out 12 blue states seeking an investigation by the Citizens Committee and Mr. Gottlieb in a letter sent directly to Pam Bondi herself from Mr. Gottlieb, and I can promise you the letter was read, asking for an investigation by the Justice Department's recently announced Second Amendment Task Force. Greg, you remember that letter?
I do.
Well, we're off to the races here. And I'm going to quote right now from that. It is cases like this which compelled the Citizens Committee to launch our online petition to AG Bondi. This is from our press release today, asking her to focus the task force's attention on Hawaii and 11 other states. That's a statement from Mr. Gottlieb. Quoting, as the administration's brief details, Hawaii's Act 52 was defiantly passed in response to the Supreme Court's 2022 Bruin ruling and is designed to essentially make the exercise of Second Amendment rights impossible in the Aloha State. Well, haven't we already known that, Greg?
Yeah, and if this is the one I am thinking of, this is an incredibly creative way for them to nullify the Second Amendment in Hawaii, if a lot of people are not familiar with it.
This is what they've been trying to do in Hawaii for a very, very long time. And they've been quite successful at it, too, I might add, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to keep reading on this because now pretty much the gloves are off, folks. And when the CCR-KBA and Mr. Gottlieb take the gloves off, you can expect there to be a battle because it's coming. And again, Hawaii was one of those blue states, one of the 12 that were mentioned. As noted in the government's brief, which is submitted by Solicitor General John Sauer, Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, Deputy Solicitor General Sarah M. Harris, and Vivek Suri, Assistant to the Solicitor General, Hawaii is one of 5 states which has adopted laws allowing private citizens to carry arms on private property only if the owner provides express permission to do so. Now, there's a caveat here because it's property that's open to the public. The scope and operation of Hawaii's default rule thus established that the rule serves no legitimate objective and that it instead seeks simply to impede the carrying of firearms. That is plainly unconstitutional. So that's the administration's brief, ladies and gentlemen. And Alan Gottlieb mentions that we couldn't have said it any better, folks. Coincidentally, all 5 of the states mentioned in the brief, including Hawaii, are specifically named in the online petition, of course, because there were 12 states. That makes sense. We're hoping the submission of the important amicus brief signals the beginning of the administration's promised effort to defend the Second Amendment from infringements enacted over the years by various states. What states? Controlled by who? Democrats. It's time to end these blatant and deliberate constitutional violations, and we finally have an administration willing to accomplish that task. Joining us to speak for just a couple minutes, and maybe we can get him to stay for the next segment.
He said he'd stay.
Is Mark Cox from 97.1 FM, St. Louis. We love you, Mark Cox, AM Radio. How are you, my brother?
I'm doing fine, Mark. Thank you for having me on, and I'm sorry for my tardiness.
Oh, don't worry about being tardy. I've been tardy on your show, so that works. Mark, I don't know how much of that you caught, but the Citizens Committee and Mr. Gottlieb sought the DOJ's intervention and investigation into 12 blue states that have been impeding American citizens in their state's right to keep and bear arms. Now seeking the Department of Justice, and let me quote this because it's important, Mark, and I know you're going to stay with us, so that's good. All right. But this is the first time in the nation's history that the DOJ is siding on behalf of the Second Amendment like this at the federal government from a civil rights perspective. Have you, obviously, if it's first time in history, but would you have ever expected to hear that in the previous 4 years, Mark?
Well, of course not, but I am shocked to hear that it's one of the first times the DOJ has come in like this. And you know what? The way I figured, Pam Bondi knows this one for the red flag law in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hopefully they're going to step in and take
30.
an active role, because you can see, in my neighboring state here in Illinois, right across the river, the tyrant, J.B. Pritzker, has done everything he can to restrict the Second Amendment rights of his citizens.
And he does it proudly.
Something's got to be done about it.
Yeah, he does it proudly. Illinois is one of those states. Mark, we're getting ready to take a break. You're going to hang with us to the bottom of the hour. Thank you so much for that. And when we come back, folks, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this with Mark Cox, and then we're going to talk specifically get his thoughts on Trump's first 100 days, which just passed last week. We'll see what he has to think about that. We've got a lot to talk with you about today. Gun Owners of America, Luis Valdez, is going to be here in the second half of this hour, followed by Arizona State Representative Kwong Win, who is the House Judiciary Chairman out there. A lot of big news from him. And then a classic roundtable with the boys. We'll be back right after this with Mark Cox.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back.
Yeah, Patriot Mobile is the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching on any of your devices, on any of the networks that we're on, this is a Patriot Mobile phone. You can activate one too. It's real easy to do. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR. Do that one line at a time. You don't have to do them all right out of the gate. You can do it like I am, one line at a time. I know it's expensive if you don't own the phones and it's got to be unlocked. I get that. So do they. They're there to help you. 100% U.S.-based staff. PatriotMobile.com. Of course, we are at the Patriot Mobile Command Center here in front of the 6 Hour mic. All brought to you by X Insurance and the Car Firearms Group Studios. Let's go back to the great Mark Cox, 97.1 FM in St. Louis. Mark, welcome back in, brother. So let's keep riding.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. I know the Blues are playing, and I know that's a big deal. So thanks for breaking away.
Yeah, they're up 2-0 right now in Winnipeg. So we're hopeful.
Yeah, well, keep your fingers crossed because that can become 3-2 real quick, as you well know, especially in Winnipeg.
I know.
All right, so gun rights attorneys, Mark, are calling this a monumental, huge deal for turning the U.S. government's position on the Second Amendment a full 180 degrees by submitting an amicus brief to the U.S. Supreme Court. The administration, the DOJ, submitted the amicus brief. It appears to be, and this is from, I believe, Mark Smith, 4-Box Diner. This is a huge deal, a sea change in the way the Supreme Court will be functioning and the way the Department of Justice will be interacting with the U.S. Supreme Court when it comes to our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. This is a big deal. Mark, it's huge.
No, amen. And the question we continue to ask, you're a great patriot and you've been asking it for many years right here on Armed American Radio, is where the hell have the Republicans been, right? I mean, it's not like they didn't have an opportunity to do this during the last Trump administration. Mm-hmm. I'm shocked to even hear the words come out of your mouth that this is for the first time the DOJ is doing this. The DOJ is there to enforce our laws. This is the Constitution. It baffles me that we haven't had a more strong stance. And all I can figure is that the ingrained bureaucracy in the DOJ, the establishment that lives on regardless of who's in charge in the administration is what's been holding this up. And now clearly under Pam Bondi, you now have somebody who's, and she's fired people since she got there. Mm-hmm. Maybe some of the people that were blocking this for all these years are finally gone, and we can get to some common sense.
Well, we have a president, too, that is saying, do these things. That's fresh air. Why didn't it happen in the first Trump administration? Well, we can look back at that. We got Trump for the second administration. It's happening. He's clearly matured on the subject matter. But go back to any previous, U.S. president with an R next to their name. Where was their full-throated defense of the Second Amendment? This all stems from the Wolford case in Hawaii. And I want to give you an example, Mark, and to you listeners. In Hawaii, part of this is part of this unconstitutional law, this Hawaii's Act 52, which is the quote-unquote extremely restrictive gun law adopted in response to the Bruin decision, Mark. You can't carry a gun in any public place that's open to or any private establishment that's open to the public. Think a restaurant, okay? Well, imagine if the state filed, the Christianity Jesus Act 52 that said, you can come in the restaurant, but you can't pray before your meal. How would that fly?
It would never fly. It would never fly. If they made people take off their burqas when they came in a restaurant or something like that, you're right. There would be cries of protest in the street if something like that happened, and yet it's not the same reaction for the Second Amendment cases. I just saw where the state of Hawaii 2 days ago, the Democrats there helped sink a bill that would have made Hawaii like Illinois with a ban on AR-15s and AK-47. Mm-hmm. And it didn't pass. The governor was going to sign it, but it failed. So I don't know. Maybe, just maybe, we're seeing a little bit of a turnaround here.
Yeah, I think so. Well, no question we're seeing a turnaround. It's just a matter of how fast it is. Everybody's been complaining about this. It's not happening fast enough because all of us want everything yesterday, right? You do too. I do too. Well, we've discussed it on your show many times. We want it yesterday. But again, and I think I mentioned this last week on your show on 2A Tuesday on 97.1 FM in St. Louis. If you look over your shoulder now in the first 100 days, so this is a great segue. Let's go there. You'll see that Trump has been moving quite quick on Second Amendment issues. When you start piling these things up, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking in a little bit about the ATF knocking funding down, Mark. I don't know if you knew this, by $478 million out of a $1.6 billion budget, and refocusing their efforts away from everything they've been doing that's been infringing on our rights as law-abiding gun owners. So there's been a lot of movement. What's your overall take on the first 100 days? Not just gun-related, but everything related.
Sure. No, I had this debate on the show with a couple of people, and we had some people from the other side call in, and they don't like it's Orange Man bad, but even a couple of them had to admit they'd give him a C just based plainly on the fact that he had followed up on a lot of what he promised on the campaign trail. They don't like what he promised on the campaign trail, but there's no way you can look at the first 100 days. You'd have to be blind, I think, to look at or deaf at least to look at the first 100 days and not realize how far he's carried the ball forward on all of these issues that are important, and all of the ones he mentioned on the campaign trail. Shock and awe that the government is shut down, or that the border is shut down. Shock and awe that we're rounding up criminal, illegal aliens and gang members using laws that are on the books, and we're sending them out in airplanes back to their home countries or back to Guantanamo, where they can't pose a risk to the citizens of America who elected these politicians to begin with. They owe this to us, and Donald Trump is following through on that. On the tariffs, I know it's controversial. Some people don't like it very much. I think he's playing a long game here, and I think 6 months from now, everybody's going to look back and say, wow, we sort of panicked, didn't we? The minute the first deal comes through with India or one of these big countries, they're all going to fall like dominoes. And when that happens, the stock market's going to explode.
I was just going to tell you that. I don't know if you knew this, but Bill Maher got schooled by, of all people, Kevin McCarthy on his own show just, I think, a couple days ago on HBO, when McCarthy reminded him, talking about tariffs. This is the first time 9 straight days of blow-up increase in the stock market, 9 straight days in a row. First, there's only been 31 other times that that's happened in the history of the market. Now, when you get China capitulating at one point, which they will do, boom, watch it happen. It is the long game. Again, everybody wants everything yesterday, Mark. We all do, right? But no, because I truly believe, and I don't. You tell me if you agree with me. I think Trump's end game here is to get rid of the income tax. I think that's what his end game is. He's already signaled that a few times. Boy, you want to talk about the economy blowing up?
I think he would. I think you're absolutely right. We're trying to do that here in Missouri. Several of our politicians, including the governor, brought it in his campaign. He got elected, and the legislative session ends in a week and a half, and they've done nothing about it. If the tariffs situation gets resolved and we continue to have, we have 10%, you have 10%, it's more like an even, flat number like that, then the U.S. is going to start bringing in billions of dollars a year that we weren't bringing in before. So we've never had a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And if it's simple math at that point. You don't need the income tax.
That means, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be able to buy more guns, because how many guns do you need? Just one more. Mark Cox, 97.1 FM, St. Louis. We love you, brother. You are just a true patriot. Thanks, brother. Looking forward to catching up with you on your show. We'll talk soon.
You're the best, Mark.
Oh,
yes,
thanks,
sir.
Man. That's Mark Cox, 97.1 FM in St. Louis. We'll be back right after this with the GOA's Luis Valdez.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason on KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker, and you're tuned into the Armed American Radio Network. Now let's get back to the man himself, Mark Walters.
Oh, man. Welcome back. Always fun to have Mark Cox on the studio lines with us. We love it. I'll guest on his show regularly on 97.1 FM, the Mark Cox in the Morning Show, with him and Kim St. Ange. St. Louis, you're tuned in. We love you guys. We love Kim, and we love Mark and everybody in St. Louis that fights for our Second Amendment rights. Welcome back inside the Car Firearms Group studios with me, ladies and gentlemen, in front of the 6 Hour Platinum microphone, Patriot Mobile Command Center fired up for you. It's all brought to you by X Insurance. Please go out of your way to support all of our partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. And I'm wearing a really cool Bud's Gun Shop shirt, so make sure to check them out because they have everything you need, and you need everything they have, at least want it. So, hey, that's okay. You work hard. Spend a little bit of that money. Visit budsgunshop.com. They've got everything you need at budsgunshop.com. I can promise you that. Check out all their specials, all their deals, budsgunshop.com. And if you're watching on X, I want to ask you to do us a special favor today. If we're now in our 17th year of the program, 2 weeks in, we're just beginning to rebuild our social media. We got beat up a lot because they didn't like what we talked about. If you're watching the show, please repost it. I'm asking you, if you're watching the show on X, please take a second and repost it and get it out there. Let's bust over 1,000 today for the first time. We've come close. Let's do that and keep growing the Armed American Radio broadcast on social media. Let's go now to Gun Owners of America, Luis Valdez, who joins us. We've got him for 2 segments. Luis, how the heck are you, man? GOA. We love GOA, brother. Nobody does it better. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. We've been fighting across the country, as you know. We've been fighting here in Florida and New York and California and elsewhere, and we don't give up.
Yeah, GOA doesn't give up. In fact, it's Gun Owners of, you got Second Amendment Foundation, GOA in the courtrooms. NSSF has really stepped up to the plate, too. And let's be real. Now, did you attend the NRA show by chance in Atlanta?
I did not attend the NRA show. I was busy dealing with the Florida supermajority legislature failing to pass pro-gun legislation.
It's a mess down there. Hold on to that. Don't take any thunder because we're going there. What a mess, Florida. We'll go there. But GOA, SAF, and courtrooms, NSSF really stepping up and help fill in the void and that vacuum that was created by a lot of nonsense over at NRA. I'll leave it at that. NRA looks like it's come back. Reformers are clearly in control over there. And I'm really hopeful that they pick up, and do what they're supposed to do, what they should have been doing for the last 15 years. I'm hopeful that that happens because it's good for everybody. But nobody does the legislative issue like GOA does, Louis. You guys know what you're doing when it comes to putting out the battle cry, if you will, to notify members of Congress, to get that ball rolling, to take that train out of the station. I don't think anybody does it better than GOA.
Well, our product speaks for itself, and that is no compromise. We're not going to sit there with lawmakers, with legislators across the country and go, well, we'll give up this if you give us that. No, it's very simple. The Second Amendment says it clear. A right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, no more, no less. And that's what we push. That's what we fight for. Because everyone always thinks, well, the Constitution grants me these rights. No. The Constitution doesn't grant anything. The Constitution enumerates these rights because even the Founding Fathers all agreed these rights existed even before the Constitution was drafted, before the inked quill touched parchment.
Well, Louis, cavemen never left their cave without their club. They didn't need a piece of parchment paper to say, hey, by the way, we give you a right to defend yourself out there in the wilds while you're trying to feed your family. You can go ahead and use a club. As long as you get it registered first and get a background check for that club, your club might be too big. It's a joke to even think about. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, Louis is right. It's a great analogy. I've always said that for years. Never, ever, ever leave your cave without your club. So let's talk a little bit about ATF. Go for it. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to finish it with the zebra on the savannah of Africa doesn't ask some authority to kick the lion in the face to defend itself. It just does it.
Yeah, and nobody gives permission to the lion to eat.
Yep.
And use whatever it has at its disposal to do so. It's just the law of nature, ladies and gentlemen. All living things have a right to defend themselves. Thank God we have that parchment paper that enumerates that right. So I have so many different things. I have so many different directions I want to go with you relative to what GOA is doing because your fingers are in pretty much every pot out there, right? You're stirring everything. But I want to start with ATF because this is a huge deal. It always has been. ATF has been a thorn in my side, your side, everybody's side, every gun owner's side for many, many, many years. Not just the last 4. Of course, it was very bad over the last 4 because it was weaponized to the extent that it was. But Trump is now, we're talking about defunding, not an entire defunding, but he's yanking about $478 billion or $478 million from the budget of the ATF. This is a huge move, because he's redirecting the ATF back to what it should be doing if it's going to exist at all, and that's going after drug traffickers and violent criminals and getting off my ass. Isn't that a good thing, Lewis? Finally?
That is a fantastic thing. Last I checked, it's between 28 to 30% of their budget's being slashed. Their mission statement is being refocused back on, and going back from my law enforcement days, going after actual bad guys, not the law-abiding citizenry that, vested the authority in me. It's a tremendous thing. I mean, look, ATF has been this blunt instrument that the gun grabbers in Congress and in the White House during previous administrations have used to violate and usurp our civil rights. And one of the biggest issues is that for always, well, it's ATF. We can't fight them. No, we can fight them. And one of the greatest ways is you see it right now. Not only is their budget being cut, but you had their entire policy of going after FFLs with this zero tolerance bull, this bovine manure excrement that they were using, where if an FFL dealer accidentally put a 0 instead of an O, or put an I instead of an L on a 4473 or the bound book, for instance, they were yanking those dealers' FFL licenses. Now, look, if a dealer is legitimately doing something bad, and by bad I mean like, hey, they're wantonly selling guns to the cartel, not like how it was during Fast and Furious, when dealers were literally going to the ATF like, hey, we don't want to sell this guy, but the ATF was forcing them to. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. But to go after law-abiding businesses for the most mundane, stupid things, to put them out of business, that's a clear assault on the Second Amendment, because the Biden administration, they realized, okay, well, the Bruin decision and Heller and McDonald's clearly says, okay, they have a right to own a gun, they have a right to carry a gun. Okay, we can't go after the gun directly. Hey, let's go after the way they get the gun. Let's go after the way they get ammunition. And that's coming to an end. That was one of the greatest things, that's coming to an end. The change in ATF is very positive coming from the Trump administration.
Short of it being completely wiped out, which I think all of us would like to see, this 24 to 25%, almost quarter of the budget being axed is a significant step. Let's talk briefly about the NFA. GOA is all over this and has been for a long time, so what I love about it. And actually on your website, wanting people to show support for the SHORT Act, which essentially would remove short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, etc., from the NFA. If we're successful in doing that, wouldn't that really just basically nullify the NFA entirely? Great first step, right?
A fantastic first step. And look, what a lot of people don't realize is the NFA was originally drafted back in the 30s to go after handguns. That's why you have these stupid provisions in it about short-barrel rifles and short-barrel shotguns. The federal government back in the 30s under FDR wanted to completely outright ban concealable firearms. And the only reason why they didn't go through with it all the way back then was back then they realized, man, there's a lot of handguns in circulation, and the Constitution kind of makes it hard for us to go after that.
Yeah, commonly
back then, back then, the gun grabbers at least still kind of understood that, hey, there's this thing called the Constitution in the way blocking us from doing things, unlike how it's been for the last 20 years. But, over just about 90 years ago now.
Wait, hey, Lewis, hold on to that. Hold on to that thought. That music means we're taking a break. It is a hard break, so we're going to get cut off if we don't do that. Lewis Valdez, Gun Owners of America. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on in Florida. Florida, you're a mess. Got to fix some problems down there. We'll talk about the upcoming convention in August in Knoxville, which I will be attending, and many others. Lots to cover in one more segment with Lewis Valdez, Gun Owners of America. Don't go away.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher wanting to let you know that the crew of the Desperado Sport Fish in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and the Second Amendment, and I'm right there with them. Now back to Mark Walters.
Oh, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Car Firearms Group Studios are fired up here for you. 6-hour mic lit up. Patriot Mobile Command Center is all lit up for you. We love it. X Insurance bringing it all. Please visit all of our partners at armedamericanradio.com. 17 years as of April 26th now, which was our 16th year anniversary. We are now in our 17th year on Armed American Radio. It's quite an accomplishment. We appreciate your support, the support from all of our amazing affiliates around the country. That list continues to grow. And Greg, you know, we've never lost an affiliate because of something we've said. That's never happened. Right. Only if they've gone dark or, you know, station flip format or something, like from wanting to listen to good conservative talk and gun rights to wanting to play country music or something like that. And that happens from time to time in radio, but we love you guys. And our first station that we ever picked up, Mountain Home, Arkansas, you are still tuned in today. We love you guys. Welcome to all of our new affiliates. It's wonderful. Please support all of our partners, folks. North American Arms, you can find them at armedamericanradio.com. Barrel Buddy, clean your guns the right way, the real way. Pitch the patch. barrelbuddy.com. 2 passes, whoosh, your gun's clean, put it right back in your holster while you're at the range. Don't even have to make a mess. Just run it right through. Clean. You can get home and oil it if you want. Hell, you can do that there too if that's your pick. Do whatever you want. Put it right back in your range bag, right back on your holster. barrelbuddy.com, barrelbuddy.com. And don't forget your emergency food supplies and all food supplies at heavensharvest.com. I'll get that out. heavensharvest.com. Clayton Llewellyn and the family over there are wonderful. Support them for supporting this show for many, many years. heavensharvest.com. Again, they're all at armedamericanradio.com. Let's go back to Luis Valdez from Gun Owners of America. Luis, a pleasure to have you here. So suffice to say, we'll wrap that other part of the conversation up quick because time is going to get away from us. It always does.
Yep.
But NFA needs to go. You agree, right?
Oh, definitely needs to go. Look, all gun control needs to go.
Leave it at that. See, ladies and gentlemen, that's the Gun Owners of America. That's no compromise. I tell you, we got a quote in here from the chat. Relentless American Patriot says, in Tennessee, GOA is behind Tennessee gun owners here. They are hammers. And that's a great description of GOA because GOA is hammers. Larry Pratt, Eric Pratt, the whole organization from the top all the way on down. What's going on in Florida, brother? Now, I know you represent GOA. You live in Florida. Florida has been baffling me for a number of years. I'm a longtime Florida resident, came to Georgia from Florida where I met my wife, got married, bought my first house, had both my kids. They're Florida natives. What is going on? Why is it the Republicans that are hammering down, for lack of a better term, on gun owners? Was it FSU or did it just give them a bunch of these squishy wishy-washies the excuse to do that?
Oh, it was even before FSU. Look, a good friend of mine says that Florida is the most restrictive pro-gun state in the country, and I think that's the best analogy ever.
It is. I agree.
You have a Republican supermajority in name only. They side more with Democrats every time real pro-gun legislation comes up to advance. Either they never even bring up legislation, they just block it flat out in committee by never bringing it up to a vote, or they bring it up for a vote and they just flat out defeat it that way. Just prior to FSU, you had a campus carry bill where the committee was, if I remember, it was clearly majority Republican, but I'm trying to remember the numbers here. It was like 7-3. 2 or 3 of the Republicans on that committee left. It was then 4-3. One Republican sided with the Democrats, blocking campus carry legislation from advancing, thus, ending it in this legislative session. And that Republican out of Miami-Dade, Ileana Garcia,
right,
after FSU on social media, proudly proclaimed that she was proud to vote against campus carry.
Yeah, she said she had no regrets. She said, I do not regret my vote at all. We covered that here on the show. You're right. Thank you for bringing up her name. I had forgotten what it was. Ileana, yeah. Turncoat.
And one of the worst things is that this isn't the first time you had a shooting on FSU campus. Back in 2014 at the Strozier Library, there was a shooting in which one of the victims was a licensed concealed carry permit holder, followed state law, disarmed themselves. And what did the guy get for his effort of being a law-abiding citizen? He got shot and couldn't defend themselves and the other people in the library. Oh, but criminals are going to suddenly stop, and follow the law? No, it's bupkis. It's crazy. My experience as a cop has taught me this. Criminals are criminals because, shocking news, they break the law. And the problem is with Florida's Republican supermajority, they keep thinking that it's 1992 and the Democrats have majority control and they need to play nice. What a lot of it really comes down to is a lot of the Republicans in Florida were Democrats who simply swapped out their Team D jerseys for Team R, and they run.
That answers a question that I hadn't looked at it that way, and I don't know the names of the individuals, but I go back to De La Portilla, all the way back into the late 90s, early 2000s. This guy was a turncoat out of Southeast Florida as well as the Senate pro temp. I just never understood that, but that would make sense. They do that because they want to be in the majority, which means they have no convictions. Look, you've got a very strong governor there that is asking for these bills to cross his desk. And the Republican majority, supermajority, is simply not delivering in the state of Florida for him at all. How are you, with the last minute and a half that we have, how are you and the GOA feeling about Trump's first 100 days from a pro-gun standpoint?
I can tell you this. These 100 days have been fantastic. Never in the history of the country have you had a White House administration do pro-gun amicus briefs.
Yeah.
Never have you had a pro-gun executive order come out of the White House. I mean, this is fantastic. I truly wish the Florida legislature operated as MAGA as the White House is right now. They all claim to be, but they're not. But the White House is really setting a record for things that has never happened in the history of gun rights. Never has the White House ever been pro-gun like this. It's always been, lip service in the past. But really right now you have a task force being pushed by the White House. You have the amicus brief. You have executive orders. You have gun control being rescinded. You have the Department of Justice changing their positions and not challenging pro-gun rulings in court, instead supporting it. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I like your phrasing there. You're dead spot on about that, and it's true. One of the cases that Lewis is referring to is the one we talked about at the outset of the program, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the Wolford case in Hawaii, where the DOJ actually supports the Second Amendment in that brief. That's the first time that's ever happened, and it's remarkable. I was talking with Mark Cox from 97.1 FM in St. Louis, and he mentioned the same thing. It's shocking that that's the first time in history that it's ever happened. Lewis, we've got the Knoxville coming up in August. We've got 25 seconds. Take it away. Tell people where they can go to register and join us there, because I'll be there as well.
Well, it's real simple. Just go to gunowners.org. All the information's there, and it's fantastic. Look, I was there last year. I'll be there this year, and I want to see you, and I want to see all your listeners there. It's truly a 2A extravaganza.
And Knoxville is a really easy place to get to, ladies and gentlemen. A good, clean, fun town. I promise a great time will be had by all. You can shake my paw, Lewis's paw. You can shake Eric Pratt's. Everybody else that's going to be there. It's going to be probably 3 to 5 times bigger than it was for its inaugural event last year. Luis Valdez, Gun Owners of America, thank you, brother, for being here. We appreciate everything you and the GOA do on behalf of all of us as American patriots and gun owners. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've not been over to GOA yet, please do so. It's real simple. Gunowners.org. Join. Get in the fight with gun owners, just like you are with Second Amendment Foundation, just like you are with NRA, just like you are with your states' rights organizations, etc. We have to have you in this fight. We need you to help step on the accelerator. First 100 days, just think what we can do in the next 3.5 years. My gosh, we can just put an end to all the nonsense. We'll be back with Kwong Win, Arizona State Rep and House Judiciary Chairman, right after the break at 6 after.
You've just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by X Insurance. X Insurance on the Armed American. is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center on the Sig Sauer Platinum microphone.
Mark, we know they want to take our guns, and now we're going to make them eat it.
Proudly presented to you by X Insurance. X Insurance. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Hour one is in the books already. Welcome into the Armed American Radio's Car Firearms Group studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today on Sundays in front of this powerful Sig Sauer microphone. And it's all brought to you by the great X Insurance here at the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center. Greg in Dallas, Tejas, how you doing, my brother?
Not too bad. You're right. Hour one, zoom in the can.
Flew right by. It always does. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle in, no doubt. Now, Greg's going to tell you how to watch this program on your social media. If you're watching us on Twitter, Facebook, please repost these, okay? Help us grow our social media. We need your help to do that. It's really important. Send a message to people that have kept us stifled for so many years because, it's not just guns. We talk about the political aspect, and a lot of people didn't like that for a long time. Too bad. Pox on them. So make sure that you like, share, and more importantly than anything, repost the post. If you're watching us on Twitter right now, Greg will tell you how to do that. Go ahead and hit repost, please. We would appreciate that greatly. Greg, I'll let you tell everybody where to watch, including Facebook, by the way, as I just mentioned, facebook.com/Armed American Radio. You can watch us over there, too. Greg, take it away, and then we'll go to our guest.
Sure, if you want to watch the show on Rumble or YouTube, just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. Over on X, it's at AAR Mark. You can also watch over on armedamericanradio.com or .org. On the right-hand side of that website, you'll see that menu icon. Just give that a click, and when that window opens up, you can select that Watch Live option. If you're driving, please hit that Listen Live link. And if you missed any previous episode of this program, just head on over to the podcast link. If you'd like to join our live chat, just download the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Boom, that'll do it. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that very much. Let's go to the Salem Radio Network studio line. It's now owned by AAR right now. Kwong Win. Kwong, Arizona State Representative and House Judiciary Chair. We call Kwong. He's a fan favorite. You're going to find out why if you've never heard him on the program before, ladies and gentlemen, I promise. But we call him, at least I call him, the Shredder, and he'll explain why. Kwong, welcome in, my brother. I love you. Welcome to the program. Always fun to have you here. Let's burn the airwaves up. What do you say?
All right. Well, first of all, I love you and Greg, and always such an honor to be back on the program. Mark, I got about 3 pages of update for you, so you let me know when you want me to start. Most of the time it's pretty positive. It's only positive because the left hasn't been able to take away our right yet in the state of Arizona. So we're just going to keep working really hard, and we want to hear from you and your listeners out there and see how you and they can help us out a little bit on this side.
Well, the reason they haven't been able to get a foothold there, and ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, they're close in Arizona. We'll go there with Kwong in a minute. You wouldn't think that, but if you were just listening to us talk with Luis Valdez from Gun Owners of America, you think of Florida, bright red state, DeSantis governor. Yeah, all the Fox News people are moving down there, so it must be a big red state, right? Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad they're moving down there. But that's not why. The fact of the matter is, they got a really strong governor down there, Kwong, and they're still having a real difficult time with gun rights in Florida, advancing them because Republicans are the problem. Now, that's not necessarily the case in Arizona. I'm sure there's a little bit of that going on. But before we go to what's happening in the pages that you have to cover today, I do want to ask you about Trump's first 100 days. 100 days passed on Tuesday. From a Second Amendment standpoint, and feel free to go anywhere with it. It's been a fantastic 100 days. And if you want any proof of that, ladies and gentlemen, just look at the left going haywire. All right? Watch Eric Swalwell. Watch him go nuts, and you'll find out that's why. Look at AOC. Look at Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is going nuts. That's because Trump is winning. As he said, you might get tired of winning. But, Kwong, your thoughts on the first 100 days, gun rights and all of it. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I think he's doing exactly what I voted for, right? I think you and I, we talk to each other a couple of times a week, and we both agree that there are a lot of great things going on. I am somewhat hesitant to give any credit when it comes to the Second Amendment. I'm still hesitant, and you and I have spoken about it offline, And you know exactly why I stand. I'm a little bit anxious. I'm a little bit impatient. And so I like to see more being done on the Second Amendment side of it, especially the ATF. I get it. You know, you want to defund or take away some of the funding. That's all great. But we still have a bunch of rules sitting out there that are designed to go after law-abiding citizens. And I'm a little stressed out about that, Mark. What do you think?
Well, let's talk a little bit about your stress. And ladies and gentlemen, I think what you're going to hear now would amount to, sans the language, a personal conversation that we would have off air, because Kwong and I have spoken about this. And let's bring it to the airwaves. I want to hear why, because I sense a little trepidation there with you. So let's talk about it. Let's be open about it and kind of go where we do when we talk personally during the week about what's happening. And folks, just for a disclaimer, when Kwong and I talk, and many of my guests talk during the week, we talk about not what we're going to be discussing if he's coming up on the show, but I want to get his thoughts on where we are that particular week with any particular news that might be breaking. And as I've said, it's been very positive news. But why the trepidation, Kwong? Where are you a little bit skeptical?
Well, let me just say this, and if you've known me for a little while now, when I have a problem, I like to go right, just focus and resolve that problem. And for example, we have a lot of Democrats introducing bills. As a matter of fact, since 23, when I became chair of Judiciary, 74 anti-gun bills. And
wow,
I took it upon myself to go ahead and take out every one of them. Like yesterday, if I see a bill coming up online, it's dead immediately. I would say, Mr. Speaker, assign it to me. Let me kill it. Let me take care of everything. You know, after 100 days, and you and I spoke about it, I'm not jumping up and down when it comes to the Second Amendment. Why? Because the ATF is still there. You know, I don't even understand who the director of the ATF is. I guess he's the the Army guy, and then the deputy director is somebody that has been working with the ATF forever. And I'm still seeing the DOJ going after some of the law-abiding citizens, and it was brought up by the Second Amendment Foundation. I follow them on Instagram and also on Twitter. I am just not happy that these rules aren't being removed. And okay. You remember there was a Supreme Court decision a couple of weeks ago, and all we have to do is so you know where I'm at. I'm a little bit too impatient, I guess.
Well, no, and that's good. We want you to be impatient, particularly as a politician. Arizona, you want Kwong to be impatient. Americans, you want Kwong to be impatient, because I don't think this is your final stop, is Arizona. I think it's a stepping stone for you. You have a bright career ahead of you. But let's focus on the ATF for just a second. Let's talk about those rules. We're talking about the Vanderstock case. And it could be completely wiped out automatically right now by changing the rules. We know that. It yet has not been done. And the question that Kwong was asking me off air was, why? And my response was an honest one. I don't know yet. I have no idea why, because it seems so cut and dry to me. I don't know what it is, Kwong, at the DOJ or what it is at the ATF. Is it as cut and dry as it seems to me? I would think so, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know. Here's what I can bring you some good news now, which you likely already know. But Trump has just cut roughly a quarter of their budget at ATF and refocused their mission on really two core things. And that is real gun trafficking, like cartel gun trafficking, that, of course, the ATF is not involved in, okay, like they were with Fast and Furious. There's that. And the ending of the attacks on law-abiding Americans and refocusing on criminals, criminal gangs, and gun trafficking only. And he's cut approximately $450 to $470 million from that $1.6 billion budget at ATF. That's a huge nut that he just wiped out, that they're not going to be able to use to come after gun owners. Does that help satisfy you? Now, that move was just made over the last few days. Does that help you?
Yeah, so it totals to about 28%. I'm extremely excited about it. But yeah, I guess 100 days is a very short time based on a 4-year term. So I just need to calm down a little bit. And you know how I am.
I know, and I'm like that too.
I just need to calm down a little bit because I'm looking at all these bills being transferred to the governor of Arizona. I'm very excited about these bills being transferred to the rest of the Arizona governor, but I know the results at the end, and so I'm already working on 2026 legislation, if you know what I mean.
I do. Kwong, we'll be back with you in just a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Kwong Win, and some of our conversations are fun because we commiserate together, and it's almost like a conversation for medicinal purposes. You got to love it. We'll bring as much of it to the airwaves as we can. We've got it for 3 more segments. Don't go away, ladies and gentlemen. Back on the flip side of the break.
We have to make sure to Cinco de Mayo tomorrow's show, as well as your birthday, because they said that MAGA can't have tacos and tequila on Cinco de Mayo.
I'm going to break that rule tomorrow.
I would if I could.
You can. Send me a pic.
Busy day tomorrow.
It's being brought to you by...
Don't know if I'll have time.
Don't forget to use the promo code AAR at mypillow.com. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. 6-hour mic fired up for you. Got the lights on outside. I had to turn the lights on during the break. Forgot to light the studio up outside, but the on-air light is flashing here in the Car Firearms Group studios for you. Patriot Mobile Command Center is now lit up here at the ranch. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. All of our great affiliates across the country, from St. Louis to New York City to Maine to Massachusetts down to California, Washington, and down to Florida. It's great to be here with you every single day. So, Kwong, welcome in, my brother from another mother. How are you, man? Kwong, when we're talking to State Representative Arizona.
I'm doing good. I'm doing great.
We call him well, I call you a sledgehammer, but I like the shredder. That's a little bit better. Kwong, tomorrow's my birthday. It's not Taco Tuesday. It's going to be Taco Monday, right? So yeah, I'm going to be 23. I just want to throw that out there. I'm going to be 23 years old.
Awesome.
So you 23, nothing. Let's see, I've been on air for 17
40 years in service.
So, Kwong, you have my permission to have a little bit of tequila and Cinco de Mayo and have a taco tomorrow. There you go. Okay, so do that.
Dang right. You know I will.
Well, I'll call you when I do the same thing. We'll enjoy one a little bit together. We go to the same Mexican restaurant on my birthday every year. My kids been going there with me since they were little kids. But yeah, I'll be a little bit older than 23. That wouldn't. I haven't been on the air. Oh, no, since I was younger than 10. That wouldn't. No. Okay, go on. So let's go back now. ATF. See, these conversations we have, ladies and gentlemen, are fun because they're heartfelt. They're real. Mark, I got to ask you about this. Or Kwong, I need to ask you about this. Is it true that this is happening? Have you heard this? And these are fun conversations to have. But they can get sometimes a little frightening, Kwong, when you take this stuff serious, because some of what I hear comes out of Arizona shocks me. Because it's Arizona. I wouldn't think that would happen. But again, you have Republicans torpedoing pro-gun legislation in Florida. Why wouldn't it happen in Arizona? Now, remind people just how much of a fine line Arizona is, because it is not supermajority like Florida is.
Hey, Mark, I'm going to wake you up, okay? So you mentioned that Republicans are torpedoing, gun bills in Florida. I'm going to read this one bill to you, and it's House Bill 2022. It is sponsored by my seatmate, Representative Bliss, and it is a school safety bill that strengthens self-defense capabilities in school, allowing trained personnel to respond to active threats, reinforcing our KBA by ensuring responsible firearm access and school safety measure. A Republican senator who is the chair of rules is holding that bill with no explanation.
Okay.
So that bill is sitting at the Senate. So you can see it is happening in Arizona.
All right. Here's my question to you. Why?
There's no explanation.
There has to be. Well, no, we don't have it. But can we surmise? Why do you have any idea why? Why a Republican would sit on that?
I can't guess. A couple of my bills actually are being held in the Senate as well for no apparent reason. And I will tell you this: I talk to Republicans all the time. You realize that you guys are actually holding off my bills, not the Democrats, because I already know what Democrats are going to be doing with my bills. I get it. I understand. I hear the stories. No matter how ridiculous I hear it, but here we are. Good Republican bills are being killed by Republicans. So, to be honest with you, I don't have an answer. I have not been able to get a hold of Senator Farnsworth, who is the current Senate Rules and Rules Chair, and he's not moving that bill. He's not getting that bill out on the floor to be voted. So, it is another good gun bill. It's another good gun bill. So it's like a disease. If we have majority, we got to make sure that we do everything we can to make it as difficult as we can for Republicans to pass bills. That's just my perception.
I always say follow the money in politics, okay? I don't know that to be the case in Arizona on an individualized basis like that, but generally in politics, you can look at where the money's coming from and generally find something. There's always something there. But it has forever baffled me why you have people who a Republican who you would believe, and this is where the Democrats beat us, Kwong. They stick together no matter what. They're sticking together supporting a Maryland man who's clearly MS-13 that beat the snot out of his wife, human trafficking, and the Democrats are supporting him, and the media is working with him, calling him a Maryland man. Democrats will stick together. It doesn't matter how bald the lie is. Why won't Republicans do the same thing?
I'll give you another example, Mark. One of my bills to protect the elderly population came out of the House 56-2. Now, you're talking about bipartisanship, right?
Right.
56-2, and it was killed in the Senate by 5-1. Republicans killed it. The one vote, yes vote, was a Democrat. So if you want to rationalize this with me, you probably need half a quart of whiskey, because I'm not going to be able to understand any of this stuff. And I live right on the floor.
It is confusing,
day, right?
It is very confusing.
Totally confusing.
Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. And again, if you look at money, you might find a common thread in there in cases of that. You know, I want to shift over to Tennessee quickly, because right now Governor Lee has a bill, because Tennessee lawmakers passed a really, really strong bill that would protect gun makers from frivolous lawsuits. Now, Connecticut has just the opposite bill, okay? Connecticut wants to pass a bill that makes it easy, in violation of the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act, to sue gun manufacturers. Ladies and gentlemen, you couldn't have a more stark difference between a blue state and a red state. Now, something tells me Lee is going to sign that bill in Tennessee. I have it on good word. We'll talk about that in the next hour in the roundtable with Brad Primo, who is in Tennessee. We'll get his thoughts on that. But nonetheless, you know, it's the, I'm trying to phrase this the right way. I'll just go back to the stark difference, okay? If you're behind the blue wall, this is what you can expect to happen. We don't expect those things to be happening behind the quote-unquote red wall, which is why it's baffling when it does happen behind the red wall, because nothing like that. The Democrats would never do that and torpedo themselves. They will put agenda over everything first. Period. No matter how bad it is, even if it means supporting a killer to try to get him and call him home when he's in El Salvador in prison. Home, Maryland's not his home. It is baffling. It's frustrating, and I don't know how you do what you do. I remember when Eli Crane was on the show, he said he works in a really dirty place, and that being Washington, D.C. Is the politics that bad too? We got 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, speaking of Tennessee, I actually read the Tennessee bill, and we already passed it here in 2022 under Doug Ducey. That was my bill to protect the industry. So I am rooting for Tennessee to get it done. But, you know, it's amazing. It was amazing in 22. We had 31-29 in the House, 16-14 in the Senate with Governor Doug Ducey, and he signed that bill. I fell off my chair.
We need more of that. We need more of that. When we come back, we're going to go to a national level and start talking about some of the news that's out there with Kwong Win, state representative from Arizona and the House Judiciary Chair in the great state, free state of Arizona. For now, a little purple, but a free state and a gun-loving state. We'll be back with Kwong right after the break. Don't go away.
Daniel Defense firearms are guaranteed for life, trusted worldwide, and designed, engineered, and manufactured right here in America. Daniel Defense, freedom, passion, precision.
Daniel Defense is freedom, passion, and precision, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to get on their mail list. I've asked you to do that for quite some time now, at least 2 or 3 years. Get on that email list, some really cool stuff over there, and you can win some really cool promotions that are worth thousands of dollars. DanielDefense.com. You can also support the DoubleDFoundation.org if you have that in you. We would appreciate that. They do. Bringing up the kids in the youth shooting sports, the ones that are coming up behind us. Boy, we need your help over there big time. I've had the honor of emceeing that event for 4 years running. Talk about a great time. Good heavens. It's really something special to be able to go over to Daniel Defense and walk through those doors and just smell that freedom hit you right in the face when you walk in, because you can smell the manufacturing of all those guns and barrels and everything else. It's just absolutely beautiful, and you can smell the range. Really cool stuff. DanielDefense.com, and you can find all of our great partners, all of them, every single one of them, including Emerson Knives and AmmoSquared.com, AmmoSquared.com. You can start stacking ammo like I do every single day at AmmoSquared.com. I think I'm up over 2,300 or 2,400 rounds now. It's really fun to watch. It's like a 401k for your ammo stash, and it doesn't take any space in your house. It's in a climate-controlled warehouse. You can switch out calibers at just a moment's notice very simply by going to AmmoSquared.com and clicking a few buttons over there. It's real user-friendly. And, of course, EmersonKnives.com and GoatGuns.com. Use the promo code AAR at Emerson Knives. Get 10% off on one of those great knives from Ernie Emerson and his wonderful family, made right here in the United States of America. I use one here at the ranch every single day, EmersonKnives.com. All right, guys, let's go back to Quang Nguyen, Arizona State House Representative and House Judiciary Chair. Quang, it's always great to have you here, brother. So let's move let's go to a national level right now. You know, we were talking about the Democrats sticking together. Well, they do. They always do. And something else that they do when they stick together is they always introduce a new gun ban at the same time they tell you they don't want to ban your guns. Adam Schiff, this scumbag from California, Padilla from California, Blumenthal and Murphy from Connecticut, 4 of the most just not FCC-friendly words I can use for those guys. Let's just call them gun grabbers, the worst this country has ever seen. Reintroduce the 2025 assault weapons ban. Now, it stands virtually no chance of moving, but they introduce it anyway because they're playing the long game. Now, Quang, when they tell you they don't want to take your guns, yet when you read the bill, there's about 9 pages of individual guns they want to take, named by manufacturer and model number. As a politician, you want to tell me what's up with this? Why do they continue to do this every year when they know it doesn't stand a chance? What's their goal with that? What's their strategy there?
You know, a long time ago when I was a little kid, my entire family fought communism. And as a little kid going to school, I always said, they're never going to take us. We're not going to lose to communists. And amazingly, since, I was born in 62, by the time 75 came around, they took it.
Yeah.
So it's always the long game. They're very persistent. They play the long game, and they're just taking their time, and they do it every time. Now, Democrats on the floor will tell me, hey, Quang, we're not going to take away your guns, so don't be so paranoid.
Okay.
And I turn around, and I look at him, and I said, hey, you just gave me 74 lies. I just shredded 74 of your bill. You lied 74 times.
In one statement.
So
in one blanket statement. That's a great way to look at it. But why? Do you ever get an answer why? Do they believe they're not taking your guns when they're trying to take your guns? Do they believe they're not? How do they believe that?
It's almost like they're refining their ways of doing things. Okay, so they introduced the bill, and it failed, and then so they'll refine it. They'll play the media game. They'll refine it, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna do this, but we're gonna do this for the betterment of human, of society." And then next year, and I would kill it, and then the following year, they would do something slightly different. Mm-hmm. They're constantly learning and measuring how they can be helped by the media. And that's what they're doing. Now, for example, they criticize me for not hearing Christian law. Christian is a kid that went over to somebody's house and played with a gun and shot himself. I'm sorry, it happened to a child. I don't know, I think he's a young teen. But now I'm being criticized for not hearing a very compassionate bill called Christian law. You see how they twist it?
Of course.
At first they said, let's get all your guns locked up. We want all your guns locked up. And now, Mr. Nguyen decided to not hear a very compassionate bill called a Christian law bill. And so you can see that the attack is constantly moving and changing direction and looking for compassion from society. And that's how they play this game. So I think they're just refining their ways of doing things.
Well, what you're talking about is a perfect example. I'm glad you brought it up, of exactly why they do it. I'll kind of ask it as a rhetorical question. We know why they do it. They do it so that they can gaslight us, because they know they have the media in their hip pocket, so they can put a bill out like that, Christian's law. The Republican, they know it's not going to go anywhere in the Republican House or Senate, but you know what? They're going to put it up anyway. Why? Because they can use it as a political attack against Republicans, that Republicans don't support keeping children safe. And they know they're going to get the media to push the gaslight and push the lie. That's agenda-driven politics over really wanting to get something done. How do you get something done? No law is going to make a parent responsible and keep the gun out of the kid's hands if that parent is irresponsible. Kwong, can you tell me as a legislator what law you could write that will make an irresponsible parent more responsible? Can you tell me that law?
That would be zero law, right? Zero. You can't do anything. And one of the things this happened on Friday. On Friday, NBC 12 local news contacted me and asked me to go on a Zoom call with the Christian family and also Representative Gutierrez, who introduced Christian law, to explain to everyone why I did not hear the bill. And you know the answer to that, right? Nope.
Yeah. It was a hit piece. They were setting you up for a hit piece so that they could make you look bad.
It's going to be a hit piece, and I can never win. There's going to be a no-win situation for me. That's how they play.
Well, again, that just proves our point, because they know they're going to have the local NBC. All of them are going to attack you and try to make you look bad. Period.
Right.
And you're right. It is a no-win. It is a no-win situation. I get it, because there's no way. What was it? I'm just curious. Was it a live interview, or was it going to be pre-taped?
It would have been a Zoom call. And I think that, Zoom, they're going to go ahead and record it. And the next thing you know, I'll be on the 6 o'clock news. And I'm not in the mood for that. You just can't win. I don't tend to bang my head against a brick wall to trying to educate dumb people. So I just don't go there.
Well, you could always go on and say that.
I'm sorry to be blunt about it.
You could always go on and say that. Obviously, I'm not going to educate dumb people, but you can't do that with the family. You don't want to put yourself in that position, because the media is going to twist it. Look,
no.
Their
You have to be very compassionate. And,
of course.
And they hit on me on Twitter regularly just to see if I can get a statement out. And I won't. I have a mission, and that mission is to protect the Second Amendment. Whether I'm doing it right or wrong or whatever it is, I only have one goal, is to protect the Second Amendment. And I know what it's like not having a Second Amendment. I know what it's like losing my freedom. And so I'm not going there anymore. I don't want your children or your grandchildren to go there. And I certainly don't want my children or my grandchildren to have to face it. And so, criticize me, shoot me in the back, do whatever you want to do, continue to do this. And I only got one more term after this term. And hopefully we'll get somebody to take up the cause and to call Mark every Sunday.
Boy, I hope. Well, you can still call. It doesn't matter if you're sitting there or not, because I know you're going to be doing the work behind the scenes. When we come back, I've got a couple other issues I want to cover with you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Arizona State Representative Kwong Nguyen. As you know, if you've been listening and you've heard Kwong on the show before, he's the House Judiciary Chair. He is the shredder. 74 bills, pro or anti-gun bills, have come across this pro-legislator's desk. Every one of them has met the jaws and the teeth of the shredder in his office. If he needs a new one, Armed American Radio has already agreed to purchase him a new one. We'll be more than happy to help him shred every single one of those unconstitutional, un-American, anti-American bills. We have one more segment left with Kwong. Don't go away. We'll be right back, and then we'll be right before a huge roundtable. We'll be back after the break.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back indeed. Patriot Mobile phone I'm holding up. If you are watching on your cameras, devices, on your television sets, regardless, your devices, your computers, your phones, you can be watching on a Patriot Mobile phone as well. PatriotMobile.com/AAR, PatriotMobile.com/AAR for Armed American Radio. You can activate a phone over there, get a free month if you do so. Many of you have. We appreciate it. Please support the businesses that support this conversation every single day, 6 days a week on the nation's airwaves. And you can find all of our great partners at armedamericanradio.com, armedamericanradio.com. We appreciate you for appreciating them. Welcome back in. Car Firearms Group Studios fired up. Sig Sauer Mike on fire. X Insurance presenting it all here at the Patriot Mobile Command Center. Quang Nguyen, one more segment with you, Arizona State Representative and House Judiciary Chair. So, Quang, there's been a couple bills. One of them I find interesting. Cam Edwards was reporting this back on the 1st. Kind of been sitting on this one. I wanted to talk with you about this as a legislator and get your thoughts. The first bill would repeal the federal prohibition on mailing concealable firearms through the U.S. Postal Service, according to a release from a congressional office. Quoting, by ensuring that lawful gun owners and small businesses can ship firearms safely and reliably through the USPS, the bill prevents future administrations from weaponizing postal policy against Second Amendment rights. The ability to ship a handgun through the Postal Service is critically important to the firearm industry, and this legislation to remove archaic restrictions while maintaining safeguards for firearm security is the right legislation at the right time. That's from Larry Keane, NSSF Senior Vice President and General Counsel at the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Handguns are overwhelmingly the most popular selling firearms in America. The transfer of handguns is more restrictive than that for rifles and shotguns, which are not subject to the same U.S. Postal Service restrictions. Congresswoman Sherry Biggs' legislation would remove these antiquated barriers while maintaining the same security safeguards as required by other firearms for shipment. The firearm industry is grateful for Representative Biggs' leadership to bring our laws into the 21st century. Now, I'll ask this question of you, and I can almost hear listeners right now collectively saying, I wouldn't trust the U.S. Postal Service shipping my gun. But Quang, shouldn't we have that choice if we want?
Yeah, we should have that choice. When we talk about USPS, which you and I and the rest of our listeners have paid for these guys, I don't even know what to say about the USPS anymore. I actually don't trust the USPS.
I knew you were going to go there. I can hear listeners saying the same thing.
Yeah, if I have an important document to be sent, I'm going right to UPS or FedEx to make sure that they get there. So in some ways, shamefully, I don't trust the U.S. government on just about anything, especially with my firearms. But yes, you're right. We should have that choice.
Well, I've lost count how many. It just happened to me last week. An envelope of mine was professionally slit open. Let's say slit open with a razor or a knife. What was in it was supposed to be there. Whatever they were looking for wasn't in it. But no doubt it happens. I would be worried about theft far more than I would be with UPS or FedEx, wouldn't you? Because we see it every day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even trust the USPS with especially my election ballot, right? Mm-hmm. You do the mail-in ballots. It goes from the town of Prescott Valley all the way down to Phoenix, which is 100 miles away, to be processed there and then shipped back to the election center here, which doesn't make any sense when I can just drive over there in 7 minutes and drop it off, right, in person. So, no, I don't particularly care for the USPS, but we should be able to have the choice to ship firearms through the USPS. I mean, if you trust them enough to do so, I think that bill should be passed and signed.
Well, I'll tell you how much I trust them. If I'm sending anything to the IRS, which I just did on the 1st, it's going certified. Nobody's going to tell me it didn't get sent. Okay? Why?
Yes, sir.
Because
yes,
I don't trust it. I don't trust
it.
Otherwise, I've got the certified receipt on. I'll go as far as getting a return receipt sometimes if you have to. because of the trust factor. The other bill, ladies and gentlemen, is not one that I wrote and spent a lot of time with, but I will bring it up because I did mention the two bills. But the second bill would remove short-barreled shotguns from the NFA list, which would eliminate what the writer and sponsor says would eliminate costly and burdensome registration requirements. Law-abiding citizens will no longer have to pay a $200 tax or complete months-long paperwork just to own a practical firearm for self-defense. Now, that's always been one that always bothered me. I don't know why an SBR is on there. Makes no difference to me. I've got AR-15 pistols, okay? I should be able to buy whatever I want out of a vending machine as far as I'm concerned. And if I want a barrel that's 4 inches shorter in length, why can't I have that as a law-abiding citizen? Have never understood that one. And suppressors as well, but we'll focus on this because it's part of the bill. Go ahead.
Exactly. I tell you, they keep saying English is one of the most difficult languages to learn, and I'm beginning to believe that because you can own a short pistol, or you can own a 16-inch barrel, AR-15. But how dare you have something in between? The little one is legal, the long one is legal, but anything in between is not legal. And so, speaking of suppressor, SB 1014 will remove the suppressor from prohibited weapons under Arizona list. And then the other one that's equally important is SB 1094. This bill is going to safeguard members of the firearms community and conservative industry from financial targeting. So basically, some of these gun companies, the bank will come in and say, we're not going to process online.
Yeah.
We're not going to process your product anymore. So, we have a lot of crazy people out there. And both of these bills will be on the governor's desk on Monday. And I guarantee you, I can almost bet you a tequila that she's going to veto all four of these bills on her desk on Monday.
Yeah, Hobbs is a what? Remind listeners, Hobbs is what?
Yeah, she's the veto queen, right?
It's a Democrat,
she
ladies
broke
and
the
gentlemen.
record.
Yeah, well,
she
Hochul just signed legislation in New York to do just the opposite. That's the difference between, that's the stark contrast, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
Living behind the blue wall and living behind the red wall. I saw a tweet from somebody. I had put a tweet out, and one of the comments that came back said, what about, I still have to fight. You talk about what Trump has done positive for the first 100 days. I still have to do this. 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 Lo and behold, because the guy lived in Washington State. Or, guys, if you're behind the blue wall, this is the fight you fight. The rest of us don't. And we're still fighting to expand our rights in what we refer to as free states. Kwong, I'll give you the final word, brother. You got about 20 seconds. Thank you for being here. I'll tell you that in advance. Go for it.
Hey, listen, I'm going to continue to fight as hard as I can for the Second Amendment and our rights to keep and bear arms. And I am actually recruiting more Republicans to come to my side and really understand, listening to your show and understand the details of the Second Amendment. To me, it's not good enough to say I support the Second Amendment. Let's go out there, guys, and do something about it.
Actually support the Second Amendment. Kwong Win, thank you, brother. I love you, man. And I appreciate you being here.
Too.
And I love what you do in Arizona. The shredder, ladies and gentlemen. Kwong is the real deal. Every state needs a Kwong Win in the State House, particularly behind the blue wall. And boy, it would be fun to be able to flip the script in some of those blue states, wouldn't it? And have somebody like Kwong with the shredder there in some of these blue states. Imagine what it would do to a guy like Waltz and the rest of these losers. Armed American Radio's Monstercast is going to continue at 6 minutes after. We'll be back on the flip side of the break with Brad Primo, CEO of Lead Slingers, Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms, and Parkland Father Ryan Petty for a classic roundtable. See you on the flip side.
You've just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by
Guns are going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center on the Sig Sauer Platinum microphone.
Mark, we know they want to take our guns, and now we're going to make them eat it.
Proudly presented to you by X Insurance. X Insurance. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Oh, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast, the third hour, begins right now. Collectively known and otherwise known as the Roundtable, classic Armed American Radio Roundtable. Been having a roundtable on the show for, well, I think as long as we've had a show. Figure it about 15 of our 16 past years, the Roundtable has been here, and it's a fan favorite for a reason. If you're new to the program, welcome in. If you're just joining us, well, welcome in. And if you're returning, welcome back. Great to be here with you. Car Firearms Group Studios lit up for you. Sig Sauer Mike fired up and powered up for you right now here at the Patriot Mobile Ranch. And it's all being brought to you by the great X Insurance. Greg in Dallas, Texas. How you doing, my brother from another mother?
Not too bad. Like you say, zoom. Here we are, hour 3.
Can you believe it? Good heavens, man. It just is, it's on us already. Buckle in, ladies and gentlemen. This hour in particular flies right by. It always does. Greg, we're up on Facebook.com live, Facebook.com/Armed American Radio. If you want to watch us over there, please do. I put up post. We're going to talk about this crazy lunatic from Waterville, Maine in this hour who put a Facebook post up wanting the Secret Service to murder Trump and all of his sycophant followers. We're going to go there. But I put her words up on Facebook. It's got over 10,000 views already and continues to grow. It's a wild story, ladies and gentlemen. Wait till you hear this, and I can't wait to get the take of the roundtable. But, Greg, if you would be kind enough to tell us where to watch and participate in the chat in other social media outlets on platforms right now, I'd appreciate it. We'll get started.
Sure. If you want to watch the show, just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters on YouTube and Rumble. On X, it's at AAR Mark. We're also on armedamericanradio.org and .com. On the right-hand side of that website, you'll see the menu icon. Give that a click. When that window opens up, you can select that Watch Live option. If you're driving, hit that Listen Live link. And if you missed any previous episode of this program, just head on over to the podcast link. If you want to join our live chat, just download the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, that will bring you in, ladies and gentlemen. We got everybody at the table. We're good to go?
Yeah, everybody here.
Let's do it. Let's start with Parkland Father Ryan Petty. Ryan, how you doing? Welcome in, my brother.
Happy Sunday to you, Mark. It's good to be here.
Great to have you here with us. I love it when you sound like you're sitting in the room with me. Brad Primo, CEO, Lead Slingers Whiskey. How you doing, my man?
Doing great, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. And Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. Just got to see you last week. It's good to hear you on the radio, on the phones with us. How you doing, Justin?
Doing good, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Okay, well, before we go to the lunatic, guys, and the pleasure is mine, Justin, before we go to the lunatic posting about killing Trump, who apparently still has her job. We'll do some follow-up live on the air with this, which, guys, if it were you or I doing that, you'd already be in handcuffs. I want to go to Shifty Schiff, Adam Schiff, California gun grabber, hater extraordinaire. Oh, good heavens, this guy is just insufferable. But I want you to listen to what he had to say about his new assault weapons ban bill for 2025. Take a listen to it, and then we'll get the response from the crew. Here we go.
Today I will be introducing the assault weapons ban of 2025, a bill that would ban the sale, manufacture, import, and transfer of military-style assault weapons. Since 2006, there have been 486 mass shootings involving assault weapons. Hundreds and hundreds of Americans have been killed in these mass shootings. This bill is a way to attack that massive threat to our safety and security. Dianne Feinstein introduced the first assault weapons ban 31 years ago after a school shooting in Stockton, California. For 10 years, that bill had a dramatic impact on mass shootings and mass casualties. But when that expired, mass fatalities and gun shootings went up by 236%. The impact was that dramatic. It's time to pass an assault weapons ban again. It's time to protect our communities from senseless gun violence. It's time to bring back that powerful common sense reform again. It's time for the assault weapons ban of 2025.
What it's time for, ladies and gentlemen, is for people to quit electing that goofball in California. Now, several things that popped to mind when he said, first of all, the Democrats don't want to take your guns, Brad Primo. We'll start with that first. Nobody wants to take your guns. Now, I covered the bill in some greater detail than I will today. We'll just go through it with a broad brush. Suffice to say, what we know about it, the main parts of the bill we'll talk about here. But they all tell you that they don't want to ban your guns, while they list almost 12 pages of individual models and manufacturers' guns they want to ban. And to quote Shifty Schiff, would ban, he said ban. No one wants to take your guns, but he said the word ban. Sale, manufacture, import, transfer. That list is dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of guns, individually by manufacturer and model number. Brad, is Shifty Schiff lying?
I mean, is he talking? I mean, of course. Of course he's lying. Is he breathing? Is he upright? Of course he's lying. The man's been a liar, exposed as a liar for years now. Not even a harmless liar. He's a malicious liar at that. You know, and you know, the crazy thing is, you notice how these folks, they never want to talk about who's doing all these mass shootings they like to talk about, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're branding the actions of criminals and criminal gangs that they like to stick up for.
Right.
Those are the ones who do the mass shootings. It's not the people. It's not you and me. It's not the people who legally own AR-15s and other, you know, these scary, you know, quote unquote military style assault. Like, what do they call them now?
Yeah.
It's not us. It's people who are already criminals, already disregard the law. Last time I checked, murder is already illegal. I mean, what are we doing? We're just going to make it more illegal? It's just all grandstanding, and it's just an effort to, again, strike at people that he doesn't like. That's what it is. They don't like us, and so they're trying to come after us any way they can and take away the things that we like and keep us from exercising our rights.
Spot on as always. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. Shifty Schiff here mentioned since 2006 there have been 486 people killed in mass shootings because of these guns. He failed to point out that since 2006 there have been tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands of shooting victims in just Chicago alone. Not to mention the headline on Fox 5 in Atlanta today on the local Fox 5. What a bloody weekend it was. Violent weekend it was with shootings and stabbings just in Democrat-controlled Atlanta alone, Justin. In the meantime, 30 million plus people own these guns. What is Shifty Schiff's ultimate agenda here, Justin Moon?
Well, we all know that he doesn't really care about crime or violence. He just cares about disarming law-abiding citizens so that they can grow the government and arrest all of us gun-owning fanatics, as they like to call us. And so, you know, it's really a question. It's really the debate between liberty and individual rights versus government overreach. That's what it's all about, Mark.
Yeah, people continue to elect this guy. It's unbelievable. It really, truly is unbelievable. Let's go over to Ryan Petty. Ryan, how come he doesn't talk about the tens and 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 hundreds of thousands of Democrat constituents killing each other in Democrat-run cities that have been controlled by Democrats for decade after decade after decade, as Brad was pointing out to us, that are doing the vast majority of the numbers that he's referring to as quote-unquote mass shootings, because the vast majority of those are gang-related violence that they don't separate as such.
Well, he doesn't mention it for the same reason that he doesn't mention why that's happening in his very own state. Look, part of me says, you know, the idiots that keep electing this guy deserve him. The problem is they thrust him on the rest of the country, right? So we have to listen to this clown every couple of years come out with his latest idea for assault weapons ban. Look, this guy has been disingenuous and dishonest from the beginning. He led the coup attempt in the House against President Trump in the first term. This is a man that does not respect. Let's just go back to the words he likes to use. He does not respect democracy or the democratic outcome of the last election. He wants control, and control can only come after he's disarmed the rest of the population.
Which they will never stop on, and they will continue to invoke Dianne Feinstein. And when we come back, I'll ask Greg to play that infamous clip from Dianne Feinstein. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, I'll set it up with this. When you hear Dianne Feinstein, remember that I just told you, she doesn't want to take your guns. The Democrats don't want to take your guns. Nobody wants to take your guns, you wacko. You're just a gun nut. That's all you are. Nobody wants to take your guns. When we come back, we'll find out if, in fact, that's really true. And you know Schiff knows the answer to that. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Hell
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher wanting to let you know that the crew of the Desperado Sport Fish in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and the Second Amendment, and I'm right there with them. Now back to Mark Walters.
Next to that, rejoin Mike Gallagher. We love Mike Gallagher. Mike Gallagher, you can listen to him on Salem Radio Network every single day, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks, Mike. We appreciate the rejoin. Mike is a great friend of the Second Amendment, a good friend of mine, a good friend of yours. So make sure to check out his program. He's top dog for a reason. Gotta love him. All right, guys, welcome back in. Car Firearms Group Studios lit up for you. Sig Sauer, Mike on fire. X Insurance presenting it all at the Patriot Mobile Command Center Ranch. Make sure to go out of your way, please, and support all of our great partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com, armedamericanradio.com, every single one of them. Make sure to check them all out. Greg, we have the Dianne Feinstein clip, correct, in the
Yep.
longer version. Let's go ahead and play Dianne Feinstein. Remember, the Democrats don't want to take your guns, ladies and gentlemen, and Adam Schiff was just talking about gun bans, and, well, he was kind of memorializing Dianne Feinstein. But the Democrats don't want to take your guns. Let's hear from Dianne Feinstein.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15.
Oh, followed by Beta O'Rourke. Let's start with Brad Primo. But, Brad, they don't want to take your guns. I just heard Schiff memorializing Dianne Feinstein, who just told us what she wanted to do.
Well, I mean, that's the Democrat way. I mean, remember how we were all told we can keep our health insurance too?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
mine
yeah.
got, yeah.
You keep your doctor, right?
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, that's a lie. I mean, so basically, when they make accusations, it's because they're doing it. And if they make a statement telling you what they're doing, they're actually doing the opposite behind the scenes. You just gotta think of what they say, and then just go ahead and understand that they mean the opposite of it. They are liars. They're reflective, habitual liars. They have a nefarious plan for us, and it starts with taking away our rights. Plain and simple. It's step one for them.
Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. Are Americans buying that garbage?
Well, I think they figured out the Democrat Party now is pretty much the party of the communists. That's why their popularity is less than 20%, less than 10% now or something like that.
Oh, it's dropping like a stone. It's well below 20% now, I think, at this point. I think it's around 18 to 20%.
At this point, they've taken the 20% issue on every single issue. So
the 10%.
It's a good thing that pretty much.
Yeah, you're right. They're taking Ryan Petty, you and I were talking about that on the Daily Defense more than one occasion. They don't side with the 90% of Americans. They side with the 10%. But you heard Dianne Feinstein's clip. You heard Beta O'Rourke. You hear David Hogg every day. I mean, you have a personal stake in this. You understand what's going on. Do the American people buy this garbage anymore just because Schiff says it and it's out on Twitter?
No, unfortunately, Mark, there's a large contingent of the American population that does listen to it and does believe it and does buy into it. And whether they know they're lying or not is really irrelevant. What those Americans want is more government. This is the Govern Me Harder coalition of Americans, right? These are the kids that sat next to us in high school that weren't paying attention during civics class or social studies, have no appreciation, couldn't care less about the founding of the country, the goals and objectives that the founders set out for the society. And there is a contingent of politicians that typically wears a D next to their name, but sometimes they wear an R next to their name.
They're there.
And they like to promise, and they play on jealousy and envy. And rather than these people wanting to go out and work hard and capture their portion of the American dream, right? They buy into this idea that it's a zero-sum game and that I have to take from somebody else whatever they have, their rights, their wealth, their land, their treasure. I have to take from them or destroy what they have. In the case of the the American family, they want to destroy that ideal family that we came to over decades and millennia. We figured out what works, what's the best way to raise children and propagate our species, right? And they want to destroy that. So there is unfortunately that group in America that buys into it, and they're dangerous, Mark, because they vote.
I mean, these are the same people, Brad, that believe AOC stands a chance to be president in 2028, and that somehow Bernie Sanders, we got to stop the oligarchy. Bernie Sanders is somehow going to play a role here. When, as you just heard from Justin, and you've seen the numbers, Brad, you're up on it. The Democrats' popularity is in the friggin' toilet, not to mention the fact that Bill Maher himself is warning them. They better knock the nonsense off. But, do enough of them buy it, I guess, is the question. I don't believe so. I don't believe they do. But Ryan is correct. There is a contingent out there that does buy into this. I just don't think it's enough. And I think it's getting worse and worse for them every day. But I don't want people to get complacent in the same breath, right?
Right. I mean, we can't get complacent. I mean, I've said on the show before that probably the biggest mistake that we could make even now is not taking AOC seriously.
That's a good point.
I know she could. I mean, it's easy to call her stupid and everything else and dismiss her, but she has a way of connecting with people, and she has energy, and she has a message that's going to appeal to some people. To treat her as if she's not a threat is a grave mistake. If you think about it, like she's basically a young and, to some people, somewhat attractive version of Bernie Sanders. I mean, probably the thing that Bernie Sanders had working against him when he was running those.
I got the visual, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, like, think about it. I mean, Bernie Sanders is probably the biggest thing that working against him. I mean, he's an old white dude, bald-headed, from Vermont or, whatever, and a little bit of a weirdo. I don't know that she necessarily has those negative qualities about her in the eyes of voters. So, we do need to take her seriously. Now, at the same time, as Justin mentioned, the Democrats, Donald Trump has basically backed them into the corner like a boxer, just been beating the crap out of them.
It's been so fun to watch.
Because, yeah, it is. They've been left with the 20% issues. I mean, like, they're sitting here crying about a MS-13 gang member that's been deported. They're crying about, criminals going to jail. It's all these things that they're coming out against, like average Americans actually support.
Yeah.
So they've got a real problem on their hands as far as that goes. But don't underestimate the stupidity of people who vote Democrat. They will turn out in droves for anybody with a D next to their name. And so we do need to take anybody that steps up as a serious threat.
Yeah, and when we come back from the break, Justin, I'm going to go to you. AOC, I don't believe she's a serious contender. I just simply don't. I think Americans are smarter than that. Put her on a ticket with Kamala Harris, and boy, that'd be my dream ticket. We'd donate money to them. However, when we come back from the break, I'll tell you one thing that does concern me, but doesn't, but does, but doesn't. It should, but it doesn't, but it should. I'll explain when we come back from the break. It is regarding AOC. We'll come back to Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms, right after this. And we've got 2 more segments to go in a roundtable. Buckle in, folks. It's going to fly by. It always does. If you get a chance during the break, check out our partners. Pick something up from them. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. We'll be right back.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back indeed. Patriot Mobile, the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. This is a Patriot Mobile phone. And on it is a photograph I took at a cigar shop I went to today. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I went and bought myself a really nice Padron cigar. And if you like to smoke cigars, you might know this. But the Padron Series 26 is a fantastic cigar. And the cigar shop had the Opus X Fuente Lost City cigars in there of various makes and models. And that's a very hard cigar to get your hands on. And I grabbed 2 of those because they were there. And while I was walking out of that humidor, I found a 9-inch by 90 gauge monster of a cigar that I don't even know how you cut or get your mouth around it. But I bought it for novelty's sake. And when I get a picture of it, I'll put it up. And you'll be able to see it. The thing is incredible. It's hilarious. I don't even think Groucho Marx would get his mouth onto something like that, but it was funny. I showed it to Greg. He says, good heavens. And then I can't tell you what he said because, well, it's not FCC friendly. But nevertheless, welcome back in. Car Firearms Group Studios fired up for you. 6-hour mic powered up, all here at the Patriot Mobile Ranch. Please go out of your way to support all of our great partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. Don't forget Ammo Squared. You can fill all your guns with whatever caliber you need. Ammo Squared has you covered. You can pick everything else up that you need. BudsGunshop.com has it all. They have everything you need. You need everything that they have. Believe me, it's a match made in heaven. BudsGunshop.com. Check them all out. ArmedAmericanRadio.com. Okay, Justin, let me go back to you. I want to say something quick about AOC.
Going to Ryan for the Feinstein story.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Ryan in just a second. Let me go around the table, and I want to get back. He's got a comment he wants to make about Feinstein. So, Justin, let me go to you just to stay on track so I don't forget. You know, Brad was talking about AOC drawing crowds and all this stuff. I'll tell you why, and I don't want anybody to get complacent, particularly with what I'm about to say. But, Justin, I couldn't care less. The Democrats are rudderless. So she draws 25,000 people in an arena with Bernie Sanders. It's a dog and pony show in a city with 2 or 3 million people. That doesn't concern me at all. That's just a bunch of wayward losers who are all grouping together with other wayward losers who are really powerless and rudderless. Does that concern you? It doesn't bother me in the least. Let them have at it. Makes for great TV watching.
Well, the Democrats' play right now is basically since they've lost all credibility among the majority, 80% of Americans. They're making the communist play. They want to try to trip up, cause a riots through the summer and then throw us into civil disorder and possibly civil war and try to topple our government using force.
Well, they're talking about it. We're going to go to that lunatic in the next segment that I was talking about at the outset of this hour. Good heavens, if you haven't heard this, wait till you hear this because you are spot on, by the way, with that assessment. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll read you some quotes from someone in just a few minutes. Ryan Petty, you had comments. You and I were chatting during the break. You had some comments about Feinstein. Let's go back to you. Let's hit Feinstein again real quick because it's fun to do. Why not?
Well, in the spirit of what we were talking about, Schiff picking up her legacy and running with it. I had an encounter with Dianne Feinstein in the, let's call it the green room of the Senate Judiciary Committee. This is where I testified in, I believe it was March of 2018, about the Parkland tragedy. And Feinstein was the ranking member. Chuck Grassley was the chair, and I met both of them before I was to testify. They wanted to meet the father, the Parkland father, and so I went back and got a funny Grassley story. We can save it for another time. But Feinstein came up to me and grabbed my arm, and she said, the solution to this is, right? And I said, I don't yet. We're working on it right now. We're setting up a commission. We're going to investigate it. We're going to get to the bottom of this and understand why this happened and why these keep happening. And she said, we need to ban assault weapons. And I looked at her and I said, the last thing that will solve this is gun control. And she looked at me and said something to the effect of how ignorant or something along those lines. And her aide grabbed her by the arm and pulled her away from me. He could tell that things were about to go sideways for her in the green room.
Whew. Okay, Brad, let me go to you on that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the real deal. Okay? You know Ryan's story. Ryan's daughter was murdered at Parkland. Ryan is fighting for your Second Amendment rights every single day. And an encounter like that, Brad, that's the real deal. How do you react to that?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, Ryan's unfortunately is the authority here on that. And
yeah, it's not
Feinstein. Feinstein. She and her ilk, they get armed guards and protection, and they spend a tremendous amount of money so they can live far away from the problems they create and send their kids to the schools far away from the undesirables, at least in their minds, undesirables in the communities, and they don't actually have to deal with regular people and regular problems and the consequences of their own bad ideas. And they're arrogant enough to think that they don't have bad ideas, funded by somebody with actual experience and knowledge. They're gonna run because deep down inside they know that they don't actually believe what they're saying, but they're doing it for power, money, and influence. They'll say anything and do anything, and so it doesn't surprise me that Feinstein had to cut that interaction short because she knew she was fixing to get it from somebody that actually had some authority in the matter.
Yeah, and the weak-kneed aide had to pull her away. Justin, when I hear something like that, it boils my blood because the arrogance of somebody like a Feinstein, a politician in Washington, D.C., who's going to look at a father and try to tell that man what the solution is, that it's political, that it's a tool. I just want to get your thought on that.
Yeah, I mean, Feinstein is definitely a wicked witch of the West, and she has nothing good planned for a good American. She definitely wants to figure out a way to enslave us and turn us into ghouls.
Yeah, it was that's Ryan. That's awful, and I don't recall having heard that story from you before, but it's not shocking to me. Were you shocked when she said that? I mean, yeah, you're plugged in politically anyway, and you knew who Feinstein was. You knew what her end game was from day one. But did that shock you when you heard her say that to your face before you testified to a Senate hearing?
Yeah, it did, because up until that point, regardless of party affiliation, I'd received nothing but everybody had been very kind about what had happened and why it had happened, and knew I was a grieving father. I was there with my youngest son, which is one of the reasons things didn't escalate, because I was trying to maintain decorum.
Yeah.
This is a U.S. senator. Regardless of how I feel about her or of her politics, she is a U.S. senator, and she should I should show her some respect. But the thing that made me angry is I'm about to testify. There's a Secret Service agent about to testify. The FBI is about to testify about what happened. And here is a woman that has already come to the conclusion there was no reason to have the hearing, and that made me angry. Why am I here wasting my time talking to you clowns?
Okay. Yeah.
If you've already made up your minds.
Well, you've just touched on something that we've talked about on this program and I've asked many, many guests who have testified both at state level, federal level, et cetera. Are you getting through, and not even testifying, but just meeting with their representatives in Washington, D.C.? Women for Gun Rights, Diana Muller, has done this year after year after year in D.C.
30.
Are you getting through? We'll take this to the break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, I want to switch over to the Facebook lunatic, excuse me. I was thinking Facebook and goofball at the same time. But when you see this and you hear this, good heavens, we're getting ready to take a break, so I'm just going to have to lose that thought right there. Simply because when we come back, we got to go over to the Facebook deal. Ryan, I applaud you for having, dare I say, more tact than I would have in a situation like that, I think. But bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, are they listening to you? That's where I was going with this, but had something else to say. But I'd say, do they really listen to you? It's evident from Brian's meeting with Feinstein that they're not. It's just a dog and pony show. They don't care what you have to say. It's all about politics to them. We'll be right back after the break. We're going to talk about the Facebook lunatic that wants Trump and you dead. We'll be right back.
Armed American Radio, and our right to bear arms. Now, back to Mark Walters.
Now, back to Mark Walters. Final segment. Thank you, Sebastian Gorka. We appreciate that rejoin very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Final segment. We told you to buckle in. Roundtable always flies right by, and this is it here for you in the Car Firearms Group studios for this Sunday anyway. And 6 Hour Mike fired up for one more segment. Patriot Mobile Command Center lit up for one more segment, and then another hour and a half because still got some work to get the podcast up for you and all that fun stuff. But that's what we do on Sundays. Remember, it's all brought to you by X Insurance and all of our great partners. Please go out of your way to support them all, every single one of them. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. We appreciate it very much. Gentlemen, let's move on now to a lunatic, left-wing, absolute lunatic. And I'm going to tell you now her name is Joanna St. Germain. She is a school teacher. She teaches English at Westerville, Maine Senior High School up in Maine. She posted to her Facebook page a despicable post that I am looking at right now live, is still up on Facebook. When you hear this, it might shock you. She is still listed as of right this very second. I'm on the Westerville, Maine High School page. She is still listed as a member of the faculty. Take a listen to what she had to say about Donald Trump and you. The Secret Service has the perfect opportunity if they choose to step up and take it. You are the ones with power. Coordinate. Take out every single person who supports Trump's illegal, immoral, unconstitutional acts. Look at the sycophants and give them what they're asking for. Every other country sees what's happening and they are taking stands. If you step up, Justin, this is where I mentioned about you, we can avoid a civil war. I'm not talking about assassinating a president. A president is a person duly elected by the American people. What she's insinuating here, ladies and gentlemen, is that Trump was not duly elected by the American people. Because she is, in fact, talking about assassinating a president. She just doesn't believe he's president because she believes he wasn't duly elected by the American people, which he was, in a landslide, popular vote, electoral vote. The woman's a wacko. Trump has shamelessly bragged openly about stealing the election. He is making plans to give himself a third term. I'm talking about Americans recognizing a fascist dictatorship and standing against it. Secret Service, you are Americans. Brad, you'll love this. My beloved military, you are Americans. We, the people, are counting on you. If I had the skill set required, I would take them out myself. I'm making this post public for a reason, I promise you. Don't waste time wondering if I'm okay. I'm not. If you're okay, you're lying to yourself. Now, she goes on in subsequent posts to double and triple down. To be clear publicly, I knew what I was doing when I did it. I'm not the least blanking sorry. That word starts with an F. Then she goes on to answer a post that was made by the superintendent of the Waterville, Maine schools, Peter Hallen, and her principal, Brian Laramie. Good morning, Waterville families. I want you to know that I became aware earlier this morning of a social media post allegedly made by a Waterville public school staff member. Please know that I have taken steps to ensure everyone's safety and am, along with the appropriate authorities, actively investigating the incident. While I cannot comment on personal matters, I assure you that due process and the safety of our students and staff are my highest priority. Very much appreciate all of you that have reached out to inform us of your concerns. I hope you understand that due to the high volume of messages we are receiving, and because our focus is on the matter at hand, I may not be able to respond to everyone individually. If you have an immediate concern about your safety or the safety of others, I encourage you to contact your local law enforcement. Thank you for your understanding and support as we work through this matter with care and responsibility. And she says, she says, I have made the news. People are angry with me for stating openly that Trump and his cronies need to die. Gosh, I fear I may have Trump derangement syndrome. Then she says, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this, and I say it with my full chest. F fascism. Blank a country that suppresses the media. Blank a country that moves to weaken the education system in order to produce weak-minded people who will follow orders. Blank a country that sends innocent men and women to die thinking they're defending democracy when they're really defending the rights of corporations to blank over the very people lining their pockets. If you're mad at this post, knowing that I just threw away a decade of experience teaching the truth, fully knowing that my superintendent will have to fire me. If you're mad that I'm speaking truth to power, blank you. Brad.
I'm sorry, that last line kind of got me.
I got to go quick, guys. We've only got 2 minutes. I want to go around the table, so tear it up, brother, because I'm with you.
Yeah, this is just a peek into like how unhinged a lot of college-educated white women have become. It's a mass psychosis, and the fact that she's a teacher, I'm going to tell you that's exactly why. When my daughter comes home from school every day, I ask her what she was told at school. What did you learn about? What did your teacher tell you about? What do you think about it? Because I am watching and I am listening for that kind of garbage getting spewed in the classroom. And when it happens, I'm going to be on the warpath. These people are out there. They're after our kids. They're unhinged. They probably can't even manage the 50 cats they have at their house. And we got to be on the lookout for them. That woman needs to be in an institution, plain and simple.
I will tell you, Justin, as we move to you, the FBI and Secret Service are aware of this and are, quote-unquote, investigating. Your thoughts on that, Justin, real quick.
Well, it is very frightful because if you look at what happened on July 13th when they tried to shoot President Trump, I mean, the Secret Service director, the manager for that location, basically created a situation where President Trump could get shot, and that area where the sniper was not covered at all. It was very clear from the planning point of view that was the Secret Service was, in many regards, complicit with that assassination attempt.
For their failures. There's no question. Ryan? Yeah, go ahead, Justin. Go ahead. Wrap up.
Yeah, I'm just saying they are very much complicit and organizationally probably, participated in that situation.
Ryan, let me go to you. You heard it. I'll let you take us to the music.
Look, the progressive law of projection never fails, and here's a perfect example of what they claim we're doing by calling us fascists and telling America that those that support President Trump want to undermine democracy and the rule of law. Nothing could be further from the truth, but who really wants to do it? It's the lunatics like this lady.
If that were you or I that said that, listeners, you'd have already lost your job. You'd have already been in cuffs. You'd have been perp walked. Why Facebook still has that post up? Okay, I'm all about free speech, but she's clearly calling for the assassination of Donald Trump and all of his followers, which is you. And she's asking parts of the U.S. government to carry that out. She's still listed as a teacher at Waterville, Maine Senior High School. Is she going to show up for work tomorrow? I have no idea. No clue. Her name is Joanna St. Germain. Look her up. Continue to follow the story. But I promise you, if it were you that did that, everything I just told you would have happened to you. Brad Primo, CEO of Lead Slingers. Thank you, brother. We love you. Thanks for being here every week. Justin Moon, CEO of Car Arms. Fan favorite for a reason. It's obvious every single time you're on the program. Ryan Petty, thank you for being here. We appreciate it very much. Armed American Radio, ladies and gentlemen, is going to get up and do it again tomorrow on Cinco de Mayo. That day means something to me, well, because I'll be a year older. Cinco de Mayo. Fun day to have a birthday, though. Until we meet on the radio tomorrow, carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never, ever, ever leave your cave without your club. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. See you on the radio tomorrow. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in today. Appreciate it very much. Monstercast flew right by. It always does. Hard to believe it's over already. But we will get up and do it again tomorrow because that's what we do at Armed American Radio and because they don't want us talking about this stuff. In fact, Giffords really doesn't want us talking about this stuff because every Giffords post they put up now, up until just a few days ago, you were able to reply to. Not anymore. If you don't agree with them, they've cut your replies off. So that's always fun because they get hammered every time they post something stupid. But that's okay. We know why they're doing it. They know why they're doing it. And that makes it even more fun to watch. So, guys, we'll see you on the radio tomorrow. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. Never leave your cave without your club. You know the routine. And I'll see you on the radio tomorrow afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific Live. See you on the radio, guys. Thanks for being here.